Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Azriel. This is Accursed Brew, and today I'll be giving you my first impressions of Ubisoft's latest title, Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, for a quick bit of context, I typically like walking into these videos with at least I would say 6 to 8 hours or so of playtime under my belt, of course, depending on the game as well, before really giving my opinion on it. But for this, I'm looking at about 15 hours or so invested into this already, which I'll contextualize a little bit later as to why that's the case. But know that I wouldn't have put so much time into this if I wasn't already having a great time with it, which I am. I'd have just cut it short at that 6 hour mark. Now, for anyone just looking to hear whether you should or shouldn't grab this, I'll start this off with a TLDR, just kind of going, actually, I guess more of like a TLDW going over my thoughts on this. Now the buy-in for the game is pretty low, with you really only needing to cough up about 17 bucks, I think it is, for the Ubisoft Plus subscription. Now I say that because you get a whole lot of game for what is a relatively low cost, and in my opinion is, like 1,000% worth it at that price point. The story isn't anything revolutionary. It's a pretty simple revenge story, to be honest, but just kind of enough to keep you going from A to B, which in this case is good for me, or good enough for me rather. But if you're looking for something with a lot of depth, definitely look away. The gameplay, so think combat, stealth, parkouring, is very tight and exactly what you'd expect from something that has been iterated on for years. This is their bread and butter, and they're killing it exactly as you'd expect. Now, when it comes to performance, it's great, which is definitely unexpected from a triple A game or like a quadruple A game or whatever Ubisoft wants to call it. But it's great nonetheless and definitely welcomed. But I will get into that a little bit more later. But understand that my minimum 1440p 60 FPS is met with maxed out settings, quality for the DLSS option. And yeah, maxed out and it feels great to play. All in all, it's worth the pass at least, but if you're someone who's looking for a fun action game that you can sink your teeth into, someone who likes feudal Japan or a returning Assassin's Creed player, I think you'd feel like your money is well spent even if you bought this at full price. Now, if you need any more convincing one way or the other, stick with me as I'll be breaking this down into a few categories and giving you my opinion on each, starting off with the story. Now, I will be spoiling the first hour or so of this, so if you'd like to skip that, I'll have a time on the screen right now kind of telling you when the next section picks up, which will be gameplay. So check that out if you want to avoid this. But as I said in the opener, it's a very shallow story, right? You're not playing this for some broad, complicated narrative that you need to like closely follow. It's a pretty simple revenge story that basically plays itself out within the first like hour of the game. And then from there, you got like a one-track mind and you're going at it. Now, Shadows opens up with one of the two protagonists in the game, Yasuke, walking with a group of priests who are looking to meet with the local warlord Oda in order to negotiate safe passage through the local lands. Now, Oda grants their passage, but not without taking Yasuke under his wing and turning him into a warrior, who you do get to play as soon after. And I gotta be honest, man, this guy is an absolute unit. He towers over everybody. He brute forces his way through anyone who gets in his way. He's just a lot of fun to play, and definitely sort of a big departure from who you will go on to play that I'll mention here in a moment for the majority of the opener of the game. Definitely a lot of fun. Take your time with him because you won't be seeing him for a bit, and especially in my case as well. But next you'll pick up is Naoe, who is the second of the two protagonists in the game. Now there's a lot of backstory that they kind of run you through with her, but essentially Oda invades her land in order to seize it for himself. Her people lose the fight, and her father dies at the hand of what will go on to be one of the many main antagonists of the game, with their group being called, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce this, but their group being called the Shinbafuku, or Shinbafoku. I do not know how to pronounce that. But they are a group of masked samurais who come after her father to take this special box that he has in his possession. Naoe promises revenge, and then pretty much from there, the story is off. Now, I am glossing over quite a bit, but that is essentially it in terms of like the exposition in the beginning. If that interests you, then cool. If not, then maybe skip over this. But anyways, the game goes about kind of doling out this story by, giving you quests from different people over the particular land, right? Whether that's summoning a part of the Assassin's Creed, or a local company with their own like agenda, or just some random person on the side of the road. They're each going to dole out different quests and things like that. Honestly, most of them are just like A to B, like go kill this person, come back, go grab this thing, come back. They're really simple. I think the only standout quest that I saw over the span of the 15 hours I threw into this game was there was like this little dog who was like all beat up and everything, and you essentially had to go kill the people who beat the shit out of him, and like that was like a really fun sort of like little quest and like kind of redeeming, and then you eventually go on to recruit that little dog. But beyond that, man, I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. You're really not doing anything complicated here, which to be honest for me is kind of like good enough. You know, I'm not coming to Assassin's Creed for a deep story. I'm kind of just coming to this for like really good gameplay mechanics, something like tight and like fun to play. I can get like my hit of dopamine in and then like go on with my day. And that's kind of what this is doing for me. So if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you really want in a game, I think this would fit you perfectly. But again, if you want depth, definitely just look away. But next, we're going to jump into the gameplay. So think combat, stealth, parkouring, and then ending that up with the progression system. Now, I mentioned earlier I was going to contextualize my playtime and why it's double what I typically put in for a first impression. And that's really just because I've been trying to unlock Yasuke and play as him for this with more experience than what the opener would afford me. But to be honest, at this point, I've just not been able to do so. I know how to get him now after looking it up, but I basically did everything but what you need to do. So I'm just going to focus on Nawe, although from my understanding with Yasuke having played that opener, having done a bit of research and things like that, he's really just a big old brute who isn't really great at stealthing, but is great at fighting his way through any and everything, which is essentially the experience you're going to have with him when you do eventually pick him up. Now for Nawe though, honestly, she's a ton of fun. Fighting with her is kind of a pain in the butt because she's pretty weak when it comes to fighting a brute. And then when it comes to fighting a Ronin too, which I don't think you're supposed to. I mean, you can fight Ronin with her, but it seems more like that's like Yasuke's speed than Naoe's. It definitely, I think even like at one point she says like, this isn't for me to fight. So it's definitely more of a challenge, especially with me playing on hard. It's basically, I'm like afforded like one or two mistakes before I'm dead. But honestly, that feels really good. And it feels appropriate too, given like the size of her compared to like everybody else that you're fighting. So stealth is definitely recommended, which again, I mean, look, it's an Assassin's Creed game. It's going to stealth well. It's going to feel nice to play. You're going to have a bunch of different options for how to take out people, whether it's, you know, with a throwing dagger, with a shuriken, you're throwing a smoke bomb down, you're jumping on them, you're pulling them into a bush, whatever the case is. I mean, you got a whole bunch of options. So, I mean, they're not lacking here by any means. You're given that freedom and you can exercise it how you please. The stealth feels great. And then on top of that too, the parkouring, allowing you to go from rooftop to rooftop to into a bush, into a building, being able to jump around, you know, just the environment in general. You have a bunch of different options with that. Like you can pretty much, I think you can climb pretty much everything except for like steep rocks, which makes sense. I mean, you can't grab anything. Why should you be able to climb it? But it makes it really fun when you're kind of jumping into like an encampment of enemies in a city. You kill one or two of them, they all aggro on you, and then you sprint away, jumping over a couple of different buildings, and then slowly sneak your way back in again to kill the rest. Honestly, that feels really fun. I've done that a few times, and it's a great time. It feels really good. Again, they've been working on this stuff for years now at this point. You would expect nothing less out of Ubisoft than to deliver on these three pillars, right? Combat, stealth, parkour, and it kills it in all three. Now, the progression system, you know, they're not reinventing the wheel here. It's pretty buck standard, adding on a couple little mechanics here and there as you work your way up, giving you tools to new weapons, new abilities, percentage increases on your damage, on this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Pretty standard stuff. Again, nothing crazy here. I mean, that's honestly essentially what I could say about most of the game is that for the most part, other than like the visuals, it's pretty much delivering exactly what you'd expect from an Assassin's Creed, which again, like I think is fine. Like I don't think it needs to do anything crazy. I just think it needs to do what it does and do it well, right? And nail it, which I think you're doing with the gameplay here and all those different things that I just mentioned. So if you like, if any of that sounds good to you, you're in for a fun time. Now moving on to the world that you're in this part of feudal Japan, which let me say right off the bat, I mean, it's gorgeous, dude. They absolutely killed it. With the visuals. I mean, when it's thunderstorming outside, the wind's blowing really quick, you're like in a bunch of foliage walking around, like it just looks super cool. It looks, you know, really beautiful. And on top of that too, and I'm going to loop in the sort of settings and performance of the game into the world, because you kind of, I mean, if you have a pretty world, that's nice, but if it doesn't run well, like what's the point? You don't get to appreciate it. But that's what's nice about this is, and I'll have my rig on the screen right now, like what my gear is that I'm using. But again, like I said in the opener, my expectation for a single player game is to play at 1440p, 60 FPS minimum, and then crank the settings up as much as possible. I've maxed everything out. The DLSS is on quality, and the only time I really deal with frame drops under 60 is when I'm in the scenarios that I just described that I said was awesome. It's also the same scenarios when it kind of runs a little poorly, when it's thunderstorming, with all the foliage going crazy and things like that. It'll usually drop to like 55 or so, so not much, but it's a little bit. But I mean, damn, does the game look really, really nice. I mean, it looks pretty damn authentic to me. And again, it runs really well, so you really get to like appreciate, the mornings, the afternoons, things like that. It's just a really beautiful game. I think if there was anything they absolutely needed to knock it out of the ballpark with, that wasn't, the gameplay stuff that I went over, it was the visuals, and I think that they did that. And thankfully, given like some of those delays, being able to sit down and optimize what they had in play right now, I think is doing it a lot of favor, right? There's a lot of games that have been coming out lately that have just run like garbage, especially one that our channel is, really known for, which is like Stalker 2. It's like our bread and butter. That game still runs pretty bad. Obviously, different situation. There's a lot going on with them. But yeah, it's not too hot. Whereas games you get like Veilguard, love it or hate it, that game ran great and it looked beautiful. And that's something similar you're getting here as well, although it might be a little bit more taxing. But look, all in all, I think the game it runs really well. The gameplay mechanics in it are like incredibly tight, exactly what you'd expect out of something that's been iterated on so much. The story, I mean, it's not great, but like, again, I mean, personally, I'm not coming to an Assassin's Creed game looking for some deep narrative, right? Like, that's something I'll go to like a couple of other devs for. But what I am looking for them is what I mentioned: great visuals, great gameplay. The game knocks it out of the park with that. And I think this is something that, again, although I'm not looking to Assassin's Creed for a deep story, I'm not going to pretend like because it doesn't have it, it's not something I can hold against it. And I think with all those things in mind, I would confidently give this game a like 7 out of 10. I think is really appropriate. I think if the story had a little bit more to it and it wasn't just something there to just kind of like get you in and get you moving, I think that you could confidently give this game something like a 9 to that extent. But with it being like kind of just like filler, more or less, just kind of something to get you in the door, it's not something that I'm going to sit here and kind of like reward them for by giving a higher score. I think 7 kind of encapsulates exactly what the gameplay, with the mechanics, the performance, the world, and everything else. The voice acting too is really sick. I know I didn't talk about that much, but I mean, you get the option of hearing people speak Portuguese and speak Japanese, and kind of going back and forth as opposed to just English or just one or the other. Being able to have that freedom between those two things feels really nice. And again, I mean, that does a lot for me. Like, that's really cool for like in terms of like immersion. It feels really nice. But again, like I said, all those things taken into consideration, I think a solid 7 out of 10 for this game. I think it's worth your time, worth your money. It doesn't need to be like an 8 or a 9, I think, for it to be considered a good game. I think anything over a 5 is probably a good game. I like to be really honest with those numbers. Unlike I think a lot of other places where they kind of just throw an 8 or 9 at it, whether it's good or bad, right? Like you kind of have to do that, otherwise it's bad. Otherwise anything less is bad, rather. But yeah, I think a solid 7 out of 10. Definitely worth checking out, at least on the pass. 100% worth that. $17 for what could potentially be like a 60, 70, 80 hour game is killer. I mean, like, I'm not even done with the first section of the game and I'm already 15 hours in, which again, your mileage may vary, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, definitely check it out. But if you like this video, it helps us out a lot if you leave us a like. Leave us a comment what your thoughts on this game are. I know that there's like some weird culture war stuff going on with this. I'm not really interested in all that. I think all of it is just noise. It doesn't need to be spoken about. I think it's garbage. But yeah, let me know what your experience with the game has been, what you think, maybe what you'd rate it. We get a lot of discussion on these videos, and I love talking about these things with you guys. And then also subscribe. We're going to be doing more videos like this coming up, other conversation about things too, which are basically like soft reviews, and other gameplay videos in general. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I love you guys, and I hope you have a good day. Peace.